What's going on YouTube? This is the LA Prepper, and tonight we're going to take a quick moment to discuss a recent video from Surviving Our Economic Downfall called Survival Takes Testing Your Preps. And this is my third take at this video, but I've been failing my own Toastmaster etiquette, so I need to keep it succinct. As Die Bullfrog would say, keep your script. Get your list of things that you want to talk about. I have a list of things I want to talk about. I think sometimes I just get a little bit excited, and I always feel like every moment of silence needs to have some sort of transition, but it doesn't. One of the first things he was talking about was maybe toning down the gun videos, not to me personally, but just in general, not being too gung-ho about firearms on YouTube. I think his perspective was a little more related to being on some government list, and maybe if the shit hits the fan, the government's going to try to come harass preppers. If the shit hits the fan, the government's going to have a lot bigger problems than preppers. That's my personal opinion. If there's 1,000 people rioting in the street and I'm at my homestead, I don't really see them knocking on my door when there's protests and riots and people are breaking windows and all sorts of stuff. I could be completely wrong, but if society starts to tear at the seams, so to speak, and we've certainly seen trends of this nature, like 50,000 homeless people in Los Angeles, for example. I personally am not the biggest believer that preppers are going to be highest on the government let's go harass them list. Just my own take. That being said, I also don't think you should. I think care needs to be taken when you're making videos about firearms. Just as an example, something like safety checking a firearm on the video is something I will frequently do. Having good trigger discipline, having good barrel direction discipline. I try to keep the barrels pointed in a safe direction, irrespective of them being safety checked. I'm never going to point a gun at myself. I'm never going to point it where my neighbors live or anything like that, because it's just completely unsafe. It's an unsafe practice, and practice makes perfect, and we're all creatures of habit. So if you build good habits, you will have good habits. If you're sloppy with your habits, you will have sloppy habits. So I definitely agree that caution needs to be taken when you're making videos about firearms. Firearms are very dangerous. They can be to an untrained person, even potentially a trained person. Accidents do happen, but you never really know who's going to watch your video. It could be some 13-year-old kid, and if he sees you sloppily handling a firearm and he sloppily handles a firearm, God forbid something, has an accident based on watching your video of handling a firearm carelessly. So I think it's really important that we encourage safe firearm use, even when it comes to making a video. I'm never going to stop making videos about guns. Of course, I am aware of the YouTube policy in regards to, intent, like trying to get, what was the rules? Modifications about firearms, accessories, and like how to install accessories, something about links to purchase firearms, things like that. So definitely trying to stay within the realm of the YouTube rules. How do I feel about the YouTube gun rules? I think I made a video about that. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but that's neither here nor there. We're on their platform. For better or worse, you gotta play by the rules, otherwise you get shut down. Kind of sucks. That's the way it is. Number 2, dry testing your gear. He's talking about, he was telling a story of a guy that had a tent and there was a hole in the tent and it was raining on him. Kind of sucks. So yeah, that's why I go out and chop wood with my Harbor Freight hatchet. That's why I go lash stuff with paracord. Um, for example, I learned recently that I need to have a tool on me to kind of seal the ends of paracord. I've seen tools that are kind of like a little U, and you put the rope through and you burn it with the lighter, and then you pull it through the U to kind of seal the end. Because if you're just trying to do it with like a pair of pliers or something, it's not always the easiest thing to do. And paracord, I don't know about you, but I have trouble sealing the ends of paracord because I always feel like the outer sheath wants to burn faster than the inner sheath. So maybe that's just I'm using too much heat or not enough heat. I don't know. I'm not the best at sealing the ends of a rope. I always have issues with it for some reason. Maybe I just don't have enough practice, but it's a little thing, but having a nice small end on your cordage rather than having the protective kind of outer layer get all messed up, little things like that. Things like, do you have stakes for your tent? Do you, is your axe sharp? Is your machete sharp? Or, do you have all your tools on you? Dry testing your gear is obviously a phenomenal idea. And that's one of the reasons I encourage, preppers to get out there in the field. Go make videos, go camping. Shame on me. I have my adventure pass and I still haven't gone camping. And will I get out into the forest before I graduate? I'm not sure. Got a lot of stuff coming up, but I certainly hope that I don't, get some job out of state. Then if I end up never getting to use that adventure pass, I'm going to refund my virtual GoFundMe fund and just pay for that out of my pocket because I'm not going to have the people that supported me on GoFundMe. I'm not going to have those funds go towards an adventure pass that I didn't end up using. That's not really fair. Kind of a side topic, but I do think about that kind of thing. I have not, as of yet, really been putting that adventure pass to good use, so shame on me for that. God, I swear these flea bites. Ugh. Gotta stop itching them. I was talking about going to the range. I need to go to the range more. My 22 is dialed in. If I was going to go to the range with it, it would really just be to kind of fine tune, the difference between 50 yards. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm tuned in at right now, to be honest. Somewhere between 25 and 50 yards. I'm sighted in somewhere between 25 and 50 yards, dead center on the bullseye. So I should probably go to the range at least. I'm sure I'll go to the range at least once before I get my hunting license. So maybe I'll have. The thing with the range is you need all these different targets, right? So you can bring your own target, but you have to kind of keep moving it. And it's kind of a pain in the ass. You got to walk out there and move it and then come back. And so it'd be nice to bring like 3 targets out to the range and put one at 25, put one at 50, or maybe even 4, 25, 50, 75, and 100. Then have them all set up and then be able to spend, a few sessions, a session being like 30 minutes before they reset, and shooting all the different ranges. Try shooting 25 and then adjust your scope, whether or not you want to do holdover or hold under, or you want to use, my scope does not have bullet drop compensator. I don't believe. I think it's just a normal boring crosshair. If you don't know what a bullet drop compensator is, go Google that. Pretty interesting stuff. So, I don't know. I guess it would depend what I'm hunting too. I mean, if I was trying to hunt like rabbit out to like 50 to 100 yards, maybe I would scope it to 75. If I was trying to hunt squirrel at like 10 to 25 yards, maybe I would set it to 25 yards. So I'm something to think about. But of course, goes back to his point. Go to the range, become familiar with gear, become familiar with your firearms. I have not taken the Maverick to the range. I have not shot a single shell out of the Maverick. Definitely something I need to do. I need to get some slugs because if I use their PVC targets, I'm gonna blow it to hell with the buckshot I have. I have some number 7 in there right now, and I would demolish that thing. Granted, at 25 yards, the spread's probably going to be something like that, but I want to test my accuracy out to 50 yards, out to 75 yards with a slug, just for the sake of testing it. It's going to be a while before I start hunting at that range with the shotgun, but absolutely need to get out to the range and put my Maverick through the paces. I was talking about Walmart and FEMA and some sort of agreements about FEMA using Walmart in an emergency situation. I'm not really hip to that myself. He was talking about boycotting Walmart for that. And, boycotting's kind of a personal thing. So it's not really, whether or not I agree with that's not really important. But I do think that voting with your dollars is something that you should be cognizant of. Don't sit and scream on YouTube about buy American, and then go buy a bunch of stuff in China. If you care about stuff like that. Don't make videos about, oh, this is the best $100 knife, and then go buy a $20 knife and don't tell anyone about it. Be real with yourself and shop for, make sure that your shopping is aligned with your values. For example, if I was talking about budget prepping and trying to save money, and then I go to Whole Foods and buy lobster and steak and all that stuff, that doesn't really make sense. So kind of stay true to yourself, and I think that's the best way to go about shopping. Talking about a stock crash, number 5. So I used to think a little more that, do I think we're going to have a correction? Yes, absolutely. I think we're going to have a correction. We're way, way overvalued, and I think we're just kind of in Looney Tunes territory with the stock market. That being said, there is a lot of value. Part of the value in the stock market, I think, is just because everyone's betting on its winning. And as long as you bet on it winning and more people bet on it winning, and we keep spending and pumping out more money and increasing the money supply, as long as everyone keeps dreaming the dream, we're all good. And then all of a sudden, if somebody wakes up, shit hits the fan. One really interesting thing about the stock market is that a lot of it is driven by algorithmic trading. Computers are doing a bunch of the trading. So it's almost as if the computers could potentially act like lemmings. So if you have, let's say, let's say China's opening some oil futures markets, and they're allowing people to, I was going to say bet on it. The stock market's kind of a bet, but they're allowing foreign investors to trade. Excuse me. So imagine that one day, some oil stock blips down 3%. If a certain algorithm sees that, let's say algorithm A sees this oil index, whatever, blip down a few points, it's going to say, oh, I have programmed into me, if this index blips down, I'm going to sell X percentage of oil somethings, or if it's not sell, maybe I'm going to short it. Well, algorithm B was programmed to follow algorithm A, and algorithm C was programmed to follow algorithm B. So you have one little tick in the market, and all of a sudden, and when I say all of a sudden, I mean like milliseconds, microseconds, less than a minute, thousands, if not millions of algorithms are going to say, oh, sell, short. And then all of a sudden you have a 10% dip in the stock market in one day because a bunch of computers all decided to copy each other because they all thought the other algorithm was smarter than they were. There's a very significant herd mentality, not only in human traders, but in computer traders. So I think the biggest danger in a stock correction isn't that stocks are going to crash and go down to zero or anything like that, but I think that potentially the correction could have it could catch like wildfire because of that algorithmic trading. Bottom line is, we produce a lot in America. Some of the stuff we produce is crap, and I'm not talking about just manufacturing, but entertainment, services. Not everything we're producing is of value, but at the same time, if you sell something for $10, it kind of is worth $10. That's like basic economic theory. It is worth what the market will bear. So What's our Dow Jones right now? Let's see. DGIA. So right now we're at 24,483. So today, April 12th, the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is worth 24,483, up 1.21%, in fact. Does that mean that that is the value of it? Well, that's what the value is today. Now, tomorrow, if the value drops 10%, people will say, oh, the stock market crashed. Oh, these people, lost all this money. We're having a big correction, etc., etc. But you have to go back to that basic economic theory. Was the stock market really worth 24,483, or was it only worth whatever 10% less of that is, 22,000 and something? So for example, if we look on this chart, on February 8th, the DGIA was worth 23,860. So is it worth now more because people are buying it more, or is it worth now more because it actually is worth more? Not to get too much into semantics, but perception of value and actual value are related, especially when it comes to the stock market, which is essentially a bet on a bet on a bet. It used to be everything in the stock market was based on, earnings and assets and stuff like that. But these days, with all the credit swaps and derivatives, you're really betting on a bet on a bet on a bet on a bet, and just the loop never ends. It just never ends. So part of the stock market's value comes from Tesla making cars, Apple making iPhones, SpaceX making rockets, Google owning everything, Amazon making Amazon does make money. Amazon does create value. Is it worth whatever it's worth right now? I don't know, but it's definitely worth something. So I do see a correction in the future just because markets are cyclical and we've been going up. We've basically been going up since 2016. Let's see, we had a little bit of a dip in August 2015, then another dip February 2016. It was like right after Trump came into office, I believe. And then we hit a peak at January 26th of 26,616. Again, we're talking about the Dow Jones Industrial. And then the last few months we've been, sorry, my neighbor's smoking outside. The last few months we've been kind of on a little bit of a corrective path. We dropped down to 23. In fact, if you were a stock market person, you might say we're bouncing off the bottom. What is the bottom? We're bouncing off 23,860, then we're bouncing down to 23,533, and now we're kind of on a little bit of an uptick. So the moving average, God, I swear, this guy drives me crazy. So our moving average recently is kind of on a somewhat decline, but whether or not we're going to see, a giant crash down to like 10,000 or 15,000, I don't know about that. We still, the thing you have to realize with the stock market, let me do a quick time check here, is that part of the value of the stock market, like I said, is from companies actually producing things of value. Part of the value comes from everyone's kind of betting on a bet on a bet. And if everyone's betting to win, it affects it in the same way that if everyone's betting on something to lose. But the other part, and one of the really big key parts of the value of the stock market, is that the US dollar has hegemony in the global markets. We're basically the global currency. And that's, of course, why we had issues with Saddam, why we had issues with Gaddafi, because they were trying to strengthen Africa, get Africa. A lot of people think, oh, Saddam was a terrorist and he was a bad guy, he's a dictator, and Gaddafi was a bad guy. But the bottom line was they made their country strong and they were trying to strengthen Africa. And I don't think America liked that. Gaddafi spoke a lot about trying to go into a gold standard and trying to strengthen Africa. And America said, no, we are not going to have you try to go off onto your own financial system. You're going to stay on US petrodollar. And of course, that's why we're butting heads with China now, because China is opening up the oil index, and we're going to see competition. So instead of other countries being limited into paying things with US dollars, now they can trade them in yuan, Chinese currency. So that's going to have some negative pressure on stock market value, but that's just one little piece of the global market. So I don't see the stock market collapsing, but that's just kind of my opinion. I do see definitely corrections for the next several years until we kind of get out of this Looney Tunes territory. $26,000 for the Dow Jones Industrial is just insane. I mean, even back in, we were at 20,000 back in May. A year ago, we were 20,000. Now we're 24,000. That's, 26,000 in January. But anyways, enough about stocks. I'm not invested in stocks. I'll probably never be invested very much in stocks. I'm more a fan of things I can change. I can paint a house and change the value. You can't paint a stock. Just my opinion. I can't call up the CEO and say, hey, do this, do that, but I can call up my realtor and say I want to sell the house. You have a lot more control over real estate. Not over the market, but over your own individual holdings. Plus dividends, you have to be rich to really make money on dividends. You don't have to be rich to buy a duplex and rent it out. You don't have to be rich to buy a multifamily. So I just think personally it's a lot easier to, if you want to be an active investor, I'm a bigger fan of real estate. If you want to be a passive investor, buy some index funds, right? Number 6, he's talking about riots. Yeah, people are going to get crazy when things get more difficult. No doubt about that. That's why I want to move to a state with constitutional carry. Number 7, boycotting. Okay, I talked a little bit about boycotting. He mentioned Dick's Sporting Goods. Yeah, I think they were doing some stupid gun stuff where they were going to stop selling guns to people under 21 or something like that. Get out of politics, Dick's. Get out. Number 8, is the U.S. preparing for unrest? Yeah, and we should be, because we're going to see increasing unrest. We're going to see increased poverty. We're going to see an increased strain on the economy. This correction, we already have poverty across the country. We already have hundreds of thousands of homeless people across the country. We have millions and millions of people on food stamps, welfare, government, other types of government aid, Section 8, Medicare, Medi-Cal. I'm on Medi-Cal. I'm unemployed. But after I start working full-time, government will go back to stealing my money again, so I'm sure we'll break even in the long run. So yeah, I don't doubt the U.S. is preparing for unrest. You should be preparing for unrest too. Why do you think I made this channel? Because I'm trying to motivate you to get ready. Get ready for what? Get ready for anything. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's the power going out, earthquake. It was really windy today. The wind, it was like 17 miles an hour today. It could have easily knocked out the power. And I don't have solar. Shame on me. I don't even have battery. I got my car battery, but ugh. Even if I just bought a battery and kept it charged, like with a normal battery charger, I would still be better off, because one car battery, you could power a cell phone or a radio with a car battery for like a week. So if you don't have solar, maybe buying a battery is just a good thing. I know Di Bullfrog's always telling me to just get a battery and get into it. Of course, he's always right. Most of his advice is always pretty spot on. Number 9, he's talking about how to hold a knife. Hold it like that rather than the step. He was talking about don't hold it like this, hold it like that. And it's funny, I had a friend tell me that really, really long time ago. I'm not trying to get into a knife fight with anyone. I do not want to get sliced open. That does not seem like a good idea to me. That's why I'm a bigger fan of constitutional carry. And last but not least, number 10, buying affordable preps. Well, I'm a big fan of that. And that's honestly why sometimes I can't watch some of these videos where they're like reviewing $100, sleepy, folding saws and all this stuff. And, here's my new $100 bag and here's my $600 handgun. Look, there's a time and a place for a $600 handgun, and sometimes maybe you want to buy a $600 handgun or a $1,000 shotgun. I will probably never buy a $1,000 shotgun. I really don't need I mean, how many shotguns do I need? I can only hold one shotgun at a time. I'll probably buy a couple more in the future, but you know, I don't need to have 10 shotguns. So there you have it. I ended up talking kind of a lot about stocks, but I do have some interesting, or at least not interesting, but I do have some thoughts on stocks. Check out his channel. Again, this is Surviving Our Economic Downfall. Excuse me. And he makes a lot of interesting points. Sharing about his life, sharing about his philosophy on prepping, on buying preps, on what the state of the world is. Until next time, YouTube, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and keep prepping.